Nah, sit down, boy.
All right, y'all. It's loading up to the live broadcast now.
Okay, John, you good to go?
Ooh.
I know.
Okay, Nelly, do your thing.
All right, now figured it out. We in this thing.
Right.
I'm about to put a dusty picture on this video on.
Look, I see us.
Cobb, you cutting up.
Oh, man, we good.
Ashley, you cutting up. Oh my goodness.
That's too funny.
Man, I think, Nelly, did we get there? We on this thing?
We on there.
Man, ladies and gentlemen, welcome out. I think, are we live? We good?
We in here.
Yeah.
We here.
Tongue again. What does that mean?
Somebody go in there. Ashley, you pulled it up on your phone, right? You see us?
I did. Hold on. I pulled it up on my phone.
We is.
James, I
I
can
lost
just exit
it.
out
She
of the.
had it, and then
Right.
she lost
I
it.
accidentally clicked off.
Hey, Billy. Hey, Billy George.
Billy George on there.
Oh, you can see me.
Hey, Luan.
If you go Ashley, get your
Come on in. Yes,
life
we
right
are live. Man, my fault, y'all. We made this thing
Hey,
happen.
hey, Shy.
Oh my God.
What's up, people? I can't see nobody yet, but
Come on in. Cheyenne on here, Billy George on here.
Diane.
Billy George, Angel. All
We
right.
out here.
Room.
Well, welcome out, ladies and gentlemen. We are so excited about having you guys join us for our Covenant Family reunion. We had these last couples over the last 2 weeks share some great insight and information on just what does it mean to be pure within your dating relationships, your married relationship. What does it look like to date your spouse before and during marriage? And so, man, they had some great insight. And so we wanted to get them all together so that we can share and talk with each other and possibly answer some questions that you all may have in the chat if you guys want to drop some. But we want to meet the couples that we have. Who are we kicking off with? Is it us or the Johnson?
Team Johnson, baby.
Team Johnson, go ahead, talk to us, man. Meet the people, tell them what's up.
What's up, y'all? My name is Jeffrey Johnson.
And I'm Mandy. I always suck at doing this. Okay.
What's up, y'all? My name is Jeffrey Johnson.
Am I-
And we are, man, now we're excited to be here. We've been married for 4.5 years. It'll be 5 this November. We live in Memphis, Tennessee, and yeah, we do some pretty cool stuff here in town. I'm a recreation director at a church, and I'm a sports trainer.
And I'm a hair and makeup artist in TV and film, and I have my own personal business doing that. So
Awesome.
She works at Netflix, y'all.
See that? Yeah, I'm with it. Well, we'll jump right into it. My name is James Hogue, and this is
I'm Sean Hogue.
Sean Hogue, my wife. We've been married right at 4.5 years also. We're expecting our first child here. They say August 11th. He may come earlier. He may come later.
Hey,
we don't know.
let's go.
We're super excited about just getting the opportunity to connect with you guys and the rest of the families as well. Who else we got?
Hey, it's the Williams.
Hey.
Ashley Cobb, like the salad, formerly, but now Williams.
And I'm Pharrell Williams.
And this is Silas, the newest Williams.
What's up, buddy?
We are in Chicago, and I work as a special education classroom assistant. So I work with a lot of autistic kids, and then I also am in grad school for school social work.
And I work for an organization called Grip Outreach for Youth. We do mentorship, where our mission is to invest in the lives of Chicago youth through Christ-centered life-on-life relationships. So we're all about the life on life and loving young people. And I can't forget our other son, Nehemiah, whom we love dearly. So
He's
Nice.
3.
yeah,
He in the bed right now, or he just chilling?
Nah, he with a friend.
he was some
We
friends.
got
He'd be cutting up
I'm
back
with
and
it.
forth.
I'm with it.
Look, he's wagging them all day, all day.
Well, what it do, camp family? My name is John Scott IV, and this is my beautiful bride,
Keandria Scott.
We are the Scotts. We currently reside in Columbus, Ohio, where I serve as a connections pastor of a local church there called Three Creeks Church. And
I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, formerly girls basketball coach and PE teacher.
Let's go.
I'm staying home with our 3 girls, Haven, Carter, and Evan. They're all under the age of 5, so a little bit of chaos
Wow.
right now.
it is crazy. And we are done, officially done.
Oh.
We're done. We've been
Oh
married.
no.
TMI. No,
He
for
went
real,
Price
though.
is Right. He had to go Price is Right with Bob Barker.
Got dudes in these streets.
We've been married for 5 years. It'll be 6 this August. And marriage has been an amazing journey that, you know, we both have grown through and up through the ups and downs. We've enjoyed the journey, so we're loving it. It's been great.
I'm with it. Is it the
What's
Tillman?
up? What's up? My name is Aaron. This is my amazing wife.
Hey y'all, my name is Stephanie.
And we're the Tillmans. We live in Tallahassee, Florida. We've been here for, God, it seems like forever. Since 2008, about 12 years now. We've been married 7 years, and it'll be 8 years. Next month.
Actually, in a few weeks,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Hey.
wow.
August anniversaries and
Nice.
but man, we're super excited and blessed to be here. I work as a athletic academic advisor at Florida State University.
And I work as an internship coordinator, so I help students get internships abroad at FSU as well.
Go Nose. And I think who we got right here in the middle, just in the middle, chilling with us.
Hey y'all, I'm Chanel. I'm the one non-married person, but I'm on here because these and they love me.
For sure, for sure.
No,
For those who may
I'm engaged. My fiance had to work tonight, but we got to co-host these episodes, and this really is like my family. Like I've known these people for years. I'm just glad to be here, just for fellowship. You know, y'all teach me things. We do it.
I'm with it. I'm with it. Thank you, Nelly Nell, for getting things rolling for us. And like I said, like she said, she was co-hosting with us. Her and Sean were co-hosting with us, and really want them to be a part of this reunion also. And so, man, we got a lot of people showing us some love in the comments, man. They said, man, we got people saying, man, I was at camp back in 2012. Covenant Family was my favorite part about camp. Like, it's a lot of people in there really enjoying this. And I think this is just a great moment that we have also for people to get just some younger couples who love the Lord and are able to just share some things that they've gone through, some things that they've seen work well. Because I think people oftentimes get it confused that believers, we don't go through a lot, or it may just be smooth. People may see you guys as marriage and think that, man, y'all got it made. Y'all couldn't have struggled or gone through anything. We'll be the first to say that's not true. I'm sure you guys will say the same thing, that's not true.
I will let you know.
For sure.
Prove some things.
We'll know that's true. That real.
So man, let's just kick it off with this. I think week 4 we walked through the idea of purity and why that's so important when it comes to us as believers. For us, that's right, Silas, you're right. We had to. That's right. Us as believers, and then just for people going into a marriage and a courtship, why is purity so important? Anybody just want to just recap or give us some ideas on that? Just give us a baseline, like why is purity such a big deal for us as individuals, us as couples, anybody? Just why is purity such a big deal?
I'll start, I guess. I feel purity was such a big deal because God has called us to be pure, right? He's called us into holiness and into righteousness through his son, Jesus Christ. And so purity is not just about sexual purity or abstaining from sex or whatever. Like purity has to do, it's so much more deeper than that. It's pure of heart. It's being holy, it's being set apart. And so purity is important because God has called us to that as Christ followers, as believers, to be a part, as we are a part of the body, and God wants his bride pure. So
I'm with it. Anybody else want to expound on that? Thank you, Ashley. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Man, basically, I love in Psalms, it asks us, how can a young man keep his ways pure? And it's God. said sexual purity or abstaining from stuff, but it's also very active, very intentional about learning more, seeking more, being better, and becoming more like God in the process. So purity is not just one-sided, and people miss that sometimes. I've missed it. So it's huge, man. It's huge.
That's for sure. Dope stuff, Jeff. Aaron, you were about to jump in, man?
Yeah. I just piggybacking off of everybody. It's so significant and so important. I'll just speak personally. Like when I first heard the word purity, it was a foreign concept to me. Like, you know, people were like, yeah, you wanna stay pure and you wanna do this. And I thought what you were saying actually earlier, like I thought it was just, man, abstaining from sex, as long as I'm not doing this, as long as I'm not, you know, looking maybe at a girl some sort of way, I'm keeping my heart pure. But it's like the reality of purity is so important because it affects everything generationally. So it's like there are so many generational effects from us keeping our ways pure, as we talked about, that impact everything. So it's like, I think about myself personally, I was not pure in a sense when if we're talking about like sexual purity, you know, like I was not prior to really finding Christ and being able to understand why it was so important. But it affects everything generationally and really impacts every single relationship. So there's a high significance on it, and it should be stressed, but it should also, I think as believers, we have to be innovative in a way where we can explain to people why it is. Because usually when you say that, people are going to think, oh man, well, I ain't having sex, you know, at least I ain't doing this, I'm pure, you know. But it's so much deeper, as you know, as we were talking about, than that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand too, whether you're single or dating or whatever, like your habits that you're creating now are going to be the same habits that you have when you're married. And I can attest for myself, there have been some things as a married woman that I've had to kind of undo, like my mindset that I had, that I was carrying, that I didn't realize was a negative habit that I had. And so whatever habits you're creating now with purity, your thoughts, like Ashley was saying and Jeff was saying, like it's an active pursuit to continuously bring those things. You may see somebody and go, ooh, they look fine or whatever, but what are you doing with those thoughts? That active pursuit to pursue the holiness and righteous thoughts. If you're not doing that now, you're not going to flip a switch when you get married and all of a sudden be able to be like, oh, I don't see you. So yeah, it starts now. It doesn't matter where you are, start now.
Yeah, to piggyback on that. So like just to give people concrete examples, if you know you got anger issues or you know anger is a part, like it's only gonna get intensified when you get married. It ain't going nowhere. If you already struggling with like pornography now, like I can be a witness. It's part of my story. Like I brought that into our marriage, and so it's like that's something like I had to confess and work through with my wife. Like if you don't deal with it beforehand, and if you're not pure with those things, you're gonna bring all that stuff into your marriage, and it's just gonna complicate things. It's just gonna make it harder. So either you're gonna deal with it now, or you're gonna have to deal with it later. But at some point, you got to deal with it.
That's right.
Right. So yeah.
Correll, why do you think, or anybody? I know when you said, man, if you don't deal with it early on, it intensifies within marriage. Why is that the case? Like, why do you guys think? Why does it intensify in marriage in that way?
So I would say off the bat, proximity. Like beforehand with your friends and other people, you can hide. You know what I'm saying? People don't know. And then also with your friends, it's like they either doing it or you kind of cool, but now it's your wife, it's your spouse. She get to see everything. You know, everything. It's like magnified. It's a glass. You can't hide that stuff. What you doing? Yeah. And then like, you know, and as a believer, like the guilt starts to eat at you a lot more. It's cool if it was just a friend or maybe some girl you don't care about, or it's just you, but now it affects your wife, it affects your children. It's affecting more things. So now it just grows greater. So
yeah, I'm with that.
And I'll add something onto that. So I'm 100% along with what Correll said, but like the reality is any sin issue going unchecked, it will find a way to seek to devour you
100%.
100%. At the worst time when we're least expecting it. We see like the progression of it. I want to say in the book of James, how it just talks about like our thoughts eventually leads to like the carrying out of sin, which ultimately takes us to death. Like sin will always take us further than we in our minds expected to go when we initially chose to engage in whatever sinful act it was. And so I feel like any of that stuff going unchecked before marriage or even in your singleness, like it's gonna find a way to rear its ugly head and cause major problems in anybody's life. So
yeah, that's a solid point.
To say that repressed issues just resurface.
Right.
It's just whatever the circumstances that will make it come up, but it would repressed issues will just resurface. They don't go away.
Yeah, Stephanie, that's a huge point. I know, especially for people, and especially for guys and men, like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Or I'm gonna push this down. I can hide that. I'm good. Nah, or even as young people, not knowing how to articulate their feelings and what's going on and why they chose to do what they did, and really walking through things and just pressing it down, as you say, it's gonna pop back up. It's gonna be like you not burying it, you planting it. You planting those sins are being planted, and eventually they're gonna reap a harvest. Right. It's not gonna be what the harvest that you're looking for. As John was pointing out, as James said, hey, when sin is full grown, it brings forth death.
Right.
Truth.
That's tough. That's tough. I thought Silas had something for us. Oh, I thought he was about to bring that word. I thought he was about to bring it. But yeah, man, if anybody that's out there listening, man, that's a huge point. Deal with it. As Mr. Ricky used to say, deal with your mess and your mess gonna deal with you.
Deal with you.
You gotta deal with it.
Ooh, I got them chills, boy.
You know what, James? Sorry. Taking it back. You know what, James? I feel like too that a lot of people don't even, some of them can't see their mess, or they can't see it because their standard is not the word of God. And so they're looking at other people and
James, John,
and they're comparing themselves to other people and going, well, I'm good, like compared to so-and-so, like
Come
I'm
on.
really good. And so what are we comparing ourselves to? The only one we can truly compare ourselves to, if we call ourselves Christian, would be the word of God. And hold ourselves, have someone holding us to the standard that he calls us to.
Yeah. I feel like adding on what Keith said, the comparison aspect, a lot of times we look at it as if I don't go all the way, if I don't fully engage in whatever it is. So if I just, if I'm watching this sex scene in this movie versus me just full out going to the porn site, or if I'm just doing some extra touching and rubbing and punching and stuff, but I don't actually have sex, it's still cool. But it's like the whole premise behind it is just like the purity of your heart and the actions and what you're doing. So it's just like, oh, well, this person is a prostitute. I ain't doing that's not the point. Like, what is your heart posture before the Lord? Like, is it actually pure? Are you actually seeking to honor him and what it is you're doing? Or are you setting yourself up to fall completely into temptation? Because that's still falling into temptation, even in I'm just kind of doing it. I didn't go on. Yeah. No, that's still a problem because you're still giving into fleshly desires instead of walking by the Spirit.
Great.
Absolutely.
What's crazy about those, Chanel, is like, we got to be real with ourselves. Some of us want these temptations. We want this sin. Like, it's not like we're being over and handle it. Like, we legit seek after these things.
Yep.
And if we like real, like be truthful and be like, nah, I wanted this and I have to deal with the consequences, stuff's not going to change. You know what I'm saying? Ourselves all day. But like, you knew what you was doing when you wanted to Netflix and chill. Like, you know what.
Talk about it.
Not
set up.
Jeff, that's a huge point. Again, I know all of us that's been at camp can hear this. I know Aaron and Steph, I know y'all work with young people and y'all hear the famous word, well, I'm struggling, man. I'm really struggling with this. Bruh, you not struggling. You giving in. You letting it happen. You letting it happen. And as Key was saying, if our standard is not Christ, then we missing it. But then on the flip side, or in addition to that, if our community or our circle around us are enabling us to do those things and not really calling us out, then that's a problem as well. And so we got to make sure we got quality people around us that will be willing to call you out, hold you accountable to these things. Because without it, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah,
It ain't gonna work at all.
I think
So
that's sorry.
outside of just having that accountability, kind of what Key was speaking on, the community, what other boundaries would you set, whether that's single or why you guys, it's boundaries, just do we let them go when we get married, or is that still an ongoing thing? What does that look like in order to guard our hearts and to protect our purity, whether single or married?
Good point. Good question.
So I'll start. So I'm the type of dude that was like, I was super friendly. Anybody know me know I'm friendly. So, and a lot of my friends, like I had a lot of like women friends, girl friends, you know, and so, and at the beginning, it's like, you know, we cool, but then, you know, I realized like that there's like also a lot of emotional investing. So I'm talking to girls sometimes 8, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm not feeling anything, but that don't mean that they're not always feeling anything. And then sometimes, honestly, you set yourself up, you're going over, it's 10 o'clock, you know, you having a conversation, think it's just gonna be a conversation. And
I'm like, who is that?
Before you a part of the picture. Before you a part of the picture. But like so at some point it has to get to a point where you're just like, nah, like I have to be wise. If I desire to honor the Lord, like I can't be doing this at 10 o'clock. I can't go over it at that time. It's like you gotta choose who you gonna serve. You know, either you're gonna serve the Lord or you're gonna serve yourself, you know, your desires. And so like you can't put yourself in that position. And then when you get married, it's the same thing. Like when we first started talking, the first thing I did when we started dating, I called up every girl that I thought that maybe cause something, I'm like, look, I got the one. You know, I'm just, look, I don't know. You know, I just want to let you know it ain't nothing there. Like it's here. And that's a hard conversation. But it's like I had to have it because she needs to know that she my number one. And it's unfortunate that I may lose some of those other friendships because they don't look the same. But a standard has to be set, you know. So but those boundaries, they have to be in place. So that's kind of what happened. But.
So, Karel, you said, so you typed a text to the girl that used to see you. I apologize if this message gets you down. Then I see that girl I see you around town.
Listen, you gotta take them hard, right? You gotta. I want to piggyback with that. Man, I think what you said, Karel.
Ain't no side pieces. Ain't no side pieces.
Ain't none.
Ain't none of that. It's just one. Come on, man.
I think what you said, Karel, is so important because one thing we don't always think about is the fact of our time. And your time, whatever you spend time with, breeds intimacy. So you spend something.
Ooh, that's a word. That's a word.
Toward it, and it's like you may not be thinking about it. And I'm the same way. Like I'm just very relational. You know, you can just probably make a friend with anybody. Your wife is probably like, man, you make a friend with everybody. You just want to talk. I'm not trying to. They just, you know, it just happens.
Be at the grocery store. Hey, sis, how you doing? You having a good day?
I know. I can relate. So Steph will have to pull me. She'll just give me the look like, you ready? You know, so I can totally relate because I made so many stupid mistakes, especially toward the beginning of our marriage where, you know, being involved with students, being involved in campus ministry, your life could turn upside down at any given moment, you know, where someone may need you to come pick them up. I need this and that, or we need you to come, whatever it may be. I was just going and doing. So, you know, we asked about boundaries earlier. I think one of the most important boundaries is how you spend your time and who you decide to spend your time with, you know, because I think Keandria touched on it earlier is the heart. John, I think you said it, the heart is so much more deceitful than we actually know. You know, it says even in the word, it says that, man, like we think that light is darkness, and how great is that darkness? You know, we actually think that what we're doing is good when it's opposite. It's completely bad. And we can trick ourselves into thinking that even with the relationships and people that we're in. And we have to really sit down and ask ourselves. And like for me, I'm so thankful for my wife to be able to sit down and say like this was stupid. You know, when you did this was not right. Like you got to really reevaluate your relationships. You got to reevaluate how you're spending time with people, because I wasn't even thinking about it. I'm just like, well, yeah, like, you know, God wants me to do this, you know, like we got to go help our brother. But at the same time, it's like, what's the hierarchy of the love that God wants you to give? Is it like God first, of course, and then whoever is not, usually it's your spouse. And then after that, hopefully your children. So it's like, do we have a level of how we're valuing what God has put in our lives? And we have to learn that either the hard way or the easy way.
No, that's good.
That's a word.
That's good.
That's a solid word for sure. Anyone else on that? Just the vein of thought that we were just walking through.
I think that, I know that our marriages reflect God's relationship with us, and it's such just a sacred thing that when people look at it, they should see God, right? It should be a sign and wonder to them. And so I know for a fact, because of that, Satan is out to kill, steal, and destroy our marriages. And so a lot of times, and so John and I, we've had to come, even within our marriage, create some strict boundaries that I think the world could look at and go, y'all really bugging, like really, like because if you're not careful, like that little foothold will give way to distrust, and just a lot of things that can come in and cause problems. And so even, just over communicating, like communicating about who you're with, who you're riding with, stuff like that. Like, and there should never be a time. We know each other's passwords. We're able to just access each other's stuff, just so that there is there's nothing that the enemy can come in and do to pit me against him. And so for us, I know it has to be like over the top, so that we can continue to build trust. It's an ongoing thing, it has to be strong.
I have a quick follow-up question with that for Jeff and Mandy, because I remember listening to y'all segment how y'all have been friends for years before even getting into a relationship. So what did that transition look like for y'all, going from a friendship to now we're dating? Like, what do those purity boundaries look like for y'all, having such a close friendship before and then going into a dating relationship?
I think you should. Don't put me on the spot. Honestly, it was literally like everywhere. It was horrible in a sense, because I didn't know how to figure that out, as well as just my past in relationships with guys has been kind of blurred. Just going into a relationship with Jeff for me was just like, what am I doing? How does this look like? I'm like, what? Like, I don't want to mess it up, but at the same time, like, I want to be pursued. Like, how do I act? I didn't do that well at all.
It was transition because like people think that's difficult. It was only difficult because it was awkward, because I've known her for so long. It's like, I looked at you like a sister, and now I'm trying to date you. It was kind of, but we had boundaries, and we knew each other on a different level. Like, she already knew my family. Like, she's been around my family for literally over a decade. So they were already with her on a friend level. She knew some of my closest friends, my siblings. So when it was time to make the transition, they kind of helped confirm some stuff about her, Like, real talk, I went and saw my stepmom, and I asked her, I was like, out of all the women I've brought to this house, who do you think is the for real one? And she was like, well, technically you never dated her, but you did bring her. She was like, Amanda. It's like, how did you know that? She said, just the chemistry and the playfulness, how well y'all was around each other, and they loved her. So it was a smooth transition, I guess.
But to add on to what I said, like, I'm thankful for the awkwardness and the just figuring, because it caused me to pursue the Lord more. Like, Lord, I don't know what you got going on, but I'm here to ask you first what this is. And so that was a blessing. And it also caused me to be more cautious, because I knew the relationships I had in the past were blurred, or we just talking but dating but not really dating. Like, that was messed up, and I didn't want that to affect what we had going on. So to really think out, like, what do I want this to feel like or be like, and Lord, what is it that you have for me in this relationship? So
Gotcha. Good point. Kind of jump into some things that we have in the comments. Billy George says Carell is a good dude, and the value of the friendship means so much. He said, man, just sometimes just a listening ear. Like he said, man, you're such a great dude. And Miss Denise Wilson asked this question. She said, I think we kind of hit on it. She was just saying, can we talk on the idea of being married and having friends that are single, like close friends that are single? Do you guys do that? How do you guys navigate those boundaries? She said, man, a lot of things that she hears that people say it can't be done or shouldn't be done. And so just kind of get some thoughts from you guys. How do you guys navigate being married and then having close friends that are single? And I'm presuming that she's saying single of the opposite sex. I'm thinking that is kind of where she's going with it. So I think we kind of hit on that a little bit with the boundaries piece, but anybody want to speak on that specifically? Or if you guys kind of think we kind of touched on it already?
Yeah, so I think my story, I don't know if like every husband on here can attest to that. I am the same as like Karel and Aaron. I had so many like girls that was legitimately like my friends going that I would on any given night hit up and be like, what you doing, big head? Like, what's up? And it was like, in my heart, if I'm honest, in my heart of hearts, there was no intention of like anything going further. But like when we got into a relationship, even pursuing her towards us getting engaged and then eventually married, that came to play in some rough ways. I got like a huge wake up call early on in marriage. I remember one specifically moment, like my wife went out to grocery shop at night. She came back and I was talking to a friend of mine that was a woman like that I knew from college. And it was probably like around what, like 8 or 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. It was late, pretty late. And she came in the door. She was like, who are you talking to? And I was like, so she knew the girl, but she let me finish the conversation. I got off the phone with her and she was just like, man, just out of respect for me and just like my thoughts, keeping them pure towards our relationship and me trusting you. I just asked that could you cut all conversations off with the opposite sex, like before 8 p.m. And honestly, early on in marriage, I was like, is it really that serious? Like, come on, but like really thinking through it, like I want to honor my wife, I want to love her. And if that's something that like is an issue for her, it's an issue for me. It's an issue for us. And so like, it was a lot of even other examples that riding in the car with the opposite sex alone, like, I don't care if it is someone that, you know, both of us know really well, like to honor my wife so that there is no foothold that the enemy can have to come in and mess with our thoughts and get us like in this mistrust mindset. We fight hard to go, no, I'm not doing that. Or if I'm in a situation where I absolutely just have to, maybe it be because of work or whatever, I'm calling my wife saying, hey, this is what it is. This is not something that I planned. And I'm just letting her know that, hey, before there's maybe even a thought that gets placed in there, I'm calling you ahead of time, letting you know what it is so that we don't give the enemy that foothold and try to wreak havoc in our marriage. And so there's so many boundaries like to go on. I'm not saying that you can't befriend people of the opposite sex, but what I am saying is be very careful. That definitely should not look how it looks when you're a single guy or a single girl when you enter into a relationship.
Think it helps when you both know the person. Like, you know, he doesn't just have a bunch of friends that I don't know.
Right.
Likewise, because then that would be like, how do I not know the person? We're one. Mm-hmm. So we're one now. So we both should know and have a relationship, a friendship with the person. You know, but I think every couple has to come together and figure out what they feel comfortable with and what honors God and what honors your spouse, because it may look different for other couples.
Good point.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It like for each couple it looks different based on the relationship, based on the history, based on the different struggles that people have, based on what they just have in their heart and what they're comfortable with. I have one of my best good friends. Well, he recently got married last year, but he was single before, and while we were married, Karel met him like as soon as we started dating, because he was like, I want to meet him, you know, like, and really on like some big brother stuff, you know, like, and we like to this day, like I came to his wedding, everything. He has a son now, like we still maintain like strict, cordial, platonic friendship. Karel knows about it. We text all the time. Karel, like at any time it's above reproach, Karel could look at my phone and, you know, see through it, and it's all memes and stupid texts or, you know, whatever. Now it's like gotten to a point where we meet up together as couples, like him and his wife, me and Karel, and like we vibing and, you know, having Zoom calls and kicking it or whatever. So it's not just the Ash and Darius relationship, it's Ash, Karel, Darius, Paisley. Like it's all, we've all come together. So and made it, you know, a couple friendship. So but yeah, I would definitely agree. Like it's definitely like whatever works for you as a couple. Because what looks the same for me and Karel may not look the same for Key and John, may not look the same for James and Sean. So
yeah, I feel like there's a scripture passage, 1 Peter 3:7. It says, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. And I think the understanding is like, for me to realize, okay, what's her limits? Like what's best for her? And she gets to set that, because obviously my first commitment is to the Lord. My second commitment is to my wife. Not to anybody else, it's to my wife. And so like, I appreciate your question, Denise, because I feel like, I know as a young man and at the beginning, like the church don't really talk about this. I ain't know. So all I knew was just like cut them off. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just like, I'm running, you know what I'm saying? Just run. That's the best thing you do is just let it. So, but it's also at the same time, is that also most loving towards them? Is there a way we still could have did? Is there a way I maybe could have brought my wife into these relationships? You know what I mean? Like I didn't think about these things until later, you know, to meet these people. Now, the ones that you know you got something for, or that you thinking, look, you need to let that go. Because it's like, I feel like it's a disservice and it's a disrespect to my wife to bring a friend that I have, if we have some old fling, and even maybe it never got there, but the thoughts were there. You know what I mean? Like then I think now you playing with fire. You know what I'm saying? Why would I want to do that to her? Like it ain't even worth it. So it's like you gotta have a hard conversation, man up, take the responsibility, or woman up, take the responsibility and be like, look, I need to let you go. But those conversations need to be had. But I do think that, I mean, I got several, you know, I would say friends, you know, that I feel like are single women, that I talk to. A lot of them, actually all of them, my wife knows. Like I don't have anyone that I have a relationship with that's a woman that my wife does not know. So yeah, so that's kind of
not.
Yeah, I mean, there's people I meet, but I'm talking about friends that you have conversations with. You know what I mean? Like that'll call you, ask you for advice, things like that. Like all of them. But like, you know, I may meet a student and I, you know, give them advice if there's one instance or something. But those are different.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I learned not to be one-sided myself personally, because I kind of pushed her away from her guy friends and didn't really understand like the need to actually like develop friendships and come into that relationship. I kind of pushed them away early on, and it's like, hey, why did I do that? Because on the opposite side, made her befriend some of my female friends, and they're like super close today. So it's like I didn't take my own, you know what I mean? I didn't want to come alongside of her. And I actually ran into guys at the gas station like a week ago. He's like, you know what I'm saying? I sized them up, was like, yeah, I'm taller than you.
So, man, the comments kind of jumping, man. We can hit some more of these. We'll kind of go on. Well, we'll go to Billy George question because it kind of fits with this one. The general consensus of his question is saying that, man, when let's say you guys, we all were single and we all were friends, and then there began to be relationships that develop. Let's say, so John and Keith started to court and get together, and then he's saying that, why is it that single people that were once in the group, when there was a bunch of singles all together, then all of a sudden when these couples begin to form, why does it seem as the single people are being pushed aside within the changing dynamics of those groups? And then he's saying even further, there may be some couples who are friendly couples, but then all of a sudden when some couples begin to have children, it's like the dynamic shifts again, and the couples who don't have children are pushed aside. Some kind of general thoughts, like why do those seasons of transition happen? Does that the question kind of makes sense? We gotta get it. Anybody want to jump in on that one?
I would say.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. I
intentional push away, I think that if couples start to form, then it's like, oh, we can do stuff together now because there's two couples that can do stuff together. The same thing with people that are families that are having children. It's like, okay, now that we're both having children, we can experience this together. And so it kind of like the single person or the couple without kids to get pushed aside. It's just not intentional. It's just like, oh, it just things can work, I guess, better, easier when I go with another couple to do something or someone's having a child. But
Gotcha.
I guess be more intentional in thinking about my single friends or my couples without kids. Now that I thought of this, I mean, I've heard this question.
Yeah. I think you, like she mentioned, it's about being intentional about maintaining those relationships. Obviously, you are in a different phase of your life. It's not going to be the same. That is life. You people move away, they get new jobs, things change, and that's okay. You're married now, so things are going to look different. But I think you have to be very intentional about wanting to maintain that relationship with that person. But two, the quality of that friendship. Is it something that that is beneficial? Like I have tons of single friends, but I don't ever feel like they will ever put me in a position where it would jeopardize, would put me in harm's way, whether it would cause me to open up a door that shouldn't be open or anything like that. I think I'm very clear about, now this is where I'm gonna go. But I think it's also about, I think, what if you, I guess for me, I've always had a lot of girlfriends growing up, always had them. And I made it my intention, because it frustrated me being the friend when this happened to me, is that with my friends in high school, you're in high school, people get their boyfriends, people get in their relationships, and people start to distance themselves. And they used to frustrate me as a friend, because I was like, well, if something happened to you and him, who gonna be there for you?
Me.
Right? And so, I mean, yeah. So I always was, because I knew how that made me feel, and I obviously knew that it's going to change, and I was okay with that. But I made it my intention to maintain those relationships because they were important to me. I wanted to have those relationships, and like I said, if it's not compromising what I have with Aaron, I'm going to maintain it. But the moment where I feel like it's going to compromise that, I need to
great point.
With that person. Not like, all right, this has to change, and it's because I'm in this situation, this has to change. I want to honor this, and so this is what we cannot do. But it's again, being real about what that looks like.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's good. Good answer.
Yeah. I would say definitely piggybacking off of both of what they stated. And I think just as with anything, when something new occurs, like things change, the dynamics change, the dynamics of the relationship changes. I'm married and I have kids and I have single girlfriends as well. That, some of them have fallen by the wayside and just been like, you know what, I can't do this. I feel like you don't have time for me. And of course that relationship, it hurts, to that it would crumble like that so easily, just, with that person not being gracious and understanding, like the fact that this is a different season. I'm trying to adjust and transition to it because it's new to me as well, and trying to navigate through that and navigate friendships as well. So I think, one, it would take for my single friends to be gracious towards me, right? And for myself to be gracious towards them and towards their feelings and compassionate towards them. And so a lot of times, a lot of the friends that I have up here in Chicago, one in particular, or a couple in particular I can think of, they'll be like, yo, like, I want to hang out. What you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm finna go to the grocery store because I gotta go fix dinner. And they be like, okay, I'm coming with you. And look, we not outside kicking and having brunch and mimosas, but hey, we spending time together. We come to the grocery store, they helping me cook, they helping me cook, or they watching the kids while I'm cooking or something, it's just, and that blesses me all the more, but at the same time, I need to be able to flex too and be like, you know what, Saturday, my friend, she invited me to brunch. Can you watch the kids? And, I'm gonna go and hang out with her and spend time with her. I can't always be like, no, I got this, I got the kids, I have to like be able to flex a little bit.
That's good, Ashley. Can I piggyback off of that? That's really good. So I think for me, this is an area that I've had to learn a lot and grow a lot in, because just feel like I've been pregnant ever since my period, like, thank God.
John,
So, like,
come on,
it's just like, I think people have to understand, like, so much changes when you are starting to enter into these just completely different life stages.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I sort of just was trying to rediscover myself, and it was really difficult. And I went into this place where I felt like I never had time for anything. And which I could have made time for it. Like, I love what you said, Stephanie, like, you have to make time for it. I feel like the first 3 years, especially after I started having kids, I just always felt like, well, I have to be the one to be home and watch the kids. And if it doesn't get done by me, then it's not going to be done right. And John is so amazing at going and building friendships. And I would be looking at him like jealous, like, man, you always gonna get to hang out with your friends. And he would be like, you can do it too. Like, go hang out with your friends. And now I've just recently, I would say in the past year and a half, gotten to a place where I'm just like, I have to cultivate friendships in my life, because it is unhealthy for either of the spouses to just isolate and only have you with your spouse. Like, that's just not healthy. And like, we're created to have fellowship with, with our sisters, with our brothers, like, and so it's very, very important. And since, this past year, I've been like, I feel like in our marriage, been the one out with people. And I love what you said too, Ashley, like, we have to take turns. Now we got 3 whole kids. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take the kids this week. You go out and have your bro date or whoever, like, and the same with me. He's like,
okay.
Hey,
bro date.
You got bro dates, John? Come on, John. Come on.
Bro date.
Bro date. You was tripping on that, and I'm sitting here like, he hanging out with everybody because she got out of Branson. That's the real thing.
John that went bald.
She got out of Branson.
But yeah, like, I feel like it's just to piggyback off what Ashley said, lots of understanding and grace, because people are going through, I mean, I went through a period of just feeling lonely and like just almost like not a depression, but like it just was so different for me of stage of life. And so, whatever you can do to meet your married friends where they're at, like, I'm up to my head in breastfeeding, trying to cook dinner, trying to grocery shop at 10 o'clock at night, or I go at 6 in the morning so that I can get home before he goes to work. It's a lot.
I don't answer the phone all the time.
So,
like, I don't call back all the time. Like,
But
that's
a solid one, man. Great questions. Like, the comments are on fire with these questions. But the idea really, I think you guys hit on to it. I think it's intentionality on both sides.
100%.
It's intentionality because, hey, outside of our relationship with the Lord, this is our most important relationship. But then also it is that we should, again, our marriages are representations of who Christ is love for the church. And how, as you said, Karel, the church is sometimes not teaching these young people how these things should look. And so us as believers, as married couples, should be welcoming these single individuals in 100%. To see how things are done. But 100%. It can't be at a cost of the relationship being able to thrive. And so
absolutely.
Exactly. That's good. That's good.
That's solid. And so BG, man. So we can keep going with the comments. How much more time? We can go about 10, 20 more minutes.
Hey, I'm good. I got time.
Right. So
we one kid down.
Victoria Alderman, I think y'all know this one. Y'all gonna get to answer this one. I'm gonna just.
It's a good one.
Easy. He said, "What are your thoughts about living with your girlfriend or boyfriend before being married?" Somebody want to take that? We'll just get one couple to answer that one. What are your thoughts?
She said, "What are your thoughts on what?"
What are your thoughts about living with your girlfriend / boyfriend before marriage? So y'all shacking up. What do y'all? Who want to take that one? John Willie, Pastor John. Pastor John, what's up?
I mean, I'm gonna give like the overall, just general, simple answer. I mean, my thing is, what's your standard as far as what you're trying to align your life with and living it? Is it according to the world standards that's going to tell you, hey, let me test drive, let me get in there and see, is this really the guy that I want to be with, or the girl that I want to spend the rest of my life with? I need to know maybe how she is in bed, or does she cook right, or how does he do X, Y, and Z? I mean, if you're trying to line your life up with that, then of course you won't see no issue with that at all. But obviously, if it's trying to line it according to the Word of God, we see that will be completely out of line in the sense of what He called us to. We talk about purity and living a life of holiness and righteousness. That in no way will reflect the heart of God and us choosing to shack up. And it just creates, we talk about creating problems and footholds. Like eventually, let's just say you do make it to marriage. I believe that you go into the marriage with even more baggage that you would create in trying to shack up each other. So big 10-foot view answer would simply be like, I would ask, what are you trying to align and live your life by? And according to that, you will clearly get your answer. And I hope it's the latter, and trying to live our lives reflected and honoring God.
Solid. Victoria said she wanted to make it clear that's not her specific question. It's her specific life. It's just a question for the community.
It's a great question. Like, I want to add to that, John, what you said, man. Like, I think as people, we are put in such a society where we're supposed to test everything, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you go into a store and you have to touch it. You got to make sure that ain't nobody drunk out of this carton of milk before I buy it, or whatever it may be. I'll make sure ain't nobody put their lips on this thing, So we want to test it. And the thing is that God's vision for relationship is marriage, and He's given us marriage as the environment to explore relationship properly. And the thing is that, like, as people, a lot of people don't want to wait for marriage. They don't want to wait for the one. They're like, you know what? I got to get in this thing right now. Like, I got to see if you really committed. Like, I got to see, can you really cook the way that you say you're going to cook? Or, is you really going to pay the bills like you said you was going to pay the bills? So we want to test it. And then when it doesn't work in the way that we thought it was, we get upset and we get mad. And then we're like, oh, well, I ain't never going to find nobody to be with. Well, you've been test driving it the whole time. So you have habitually put yourself in a direction where you are always consistently trying to test something and make sure, like, oh, this is okay. And when it doesn't go your way, you don't want to be with it anymore. And marriage is just not that. Like, when it's not going your way and when you butt heads and you have differences, you can't just walk out and say, well, this ain't working. I'm tired of testing this thing. I got to get some new wheels, or I got to go get a new car because this old one got about 200,000 miles on it and I can't ride with it no more. Like, that's not the vision.
That's
but
good.
I think the reality of it is that we're getting further and further away from the desire to be committed. We would rather just test and function as opposed to thrive the way that God wants us to. And life doesn't look like what we think it is. Like, we want this utopia and we want to be happy and joyful. And when this person changes, I don't think I like them anymore. And that's just not what marriage is. Like, you're gonna come into confrontation. You're gonna get into positions where you're fighting and things aren't always great, but you have to evaluate, am I gonna stick this thing out? So I think, like, all that to say, and like, you're putting yourself in a place where there's going to be a lot of damage, and trying to repair that damage when you get into a marriage is going to be really difficult. So you're not setting yourself up for success if you're coming together before you're married, especially in that. You're going to fail. Like, we're people. We are, and I'll talk about this too. Like, I know we're not talking directly about sex, but it's like, we're sexual beings. So it's like, I think the bigger question that's not being asked is like, are we going to be able to, like, do this and not come to a place where we're giving each other the most valuable thing that we could give each other is one another.
That's good.
Solid. Yeah. So there's a question that kind of deals with, I think it's a young lady named Dozy Rosie. she wrote it in. She said, hey, listen, being as a Black woman, I've been taught to stand on my own with or without a man financially and mentally. Then she says, how do I allow the man to lead without feeling like I don't have my own voice or feelings, as if I'm in like the typical woman's role? So kind of like, what does roles look like within you guys? What does submission? I think that's the bigger question. What does that really look like? That dreaded S word. Yeah, I'm saying that boosie, boo. So yeah, like, what does that look like with you guys? Well, not you guys. See there, I'm feeding right into it. What does it look like with you all and you guys and y'all's marriage? I was to Carolina, and y'all's marriage when it comes to just roles and submission and all those things. What does that look like?
I'll jump in with that one. Honestly, it's still evolving, right? We're almost 5 years in and we haven't fully landed on certain things yet because we're still testing stuff out. You know what I'm saying? It's like with the domestication rules, it's like,
I feel like you pointed to me.
I didn't point to you. It's like we both tried, all of it, you know what I'm saying? And we figure out who has the better skills at whatever. So it's like finances, who's better at finances? The mentor was like, whoever is better at the thing probably should do that thing and take your pride out of it, you know what I'm saying? But it's still dealing, especially being in the Bible Belt, you got that missionary Baptist culture where it's like men this, women this, like you got to stay on it. But it's just like for your family, works for your marriage.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How can you align yourself biblically to do that? And it's hard for me leading in certain areas when I still don't know what that looks like. And I guess you speak to yourself.
Sure. So for me, I guess the big thing as far as submitting to my husband as his wife, that's probably the main thing I suck at. Because I really don't think, stop it. I don't think that at least the churches that I've been a part of really like explain what that looks like in a marriage. So now I'm left to kind of figure out what that looks like for us, or at least have like some foundation from it. But I don't have anything. It's just like submit to your husband. Okay, cool. What does that look like? And so for me, especially being the way that I am, because I think I'm always right and I know the best way to do everything. it's like one, how do I want to be led if I allow him to lead? And how does my husband want to lead? And then figure out where I can meet him in the middle where I'm at right now, and then we'll work on the rest as we go. And so yeah, there's plenty of times where I'm just like, I know the best way to do this, but I'm gonna let us fail real quick so he can figure it out. It may not be the best way to go about it, but it's me at least trying to figure out how can I allow him to lead and me to follow him, because I did promise the Lord, like, hey, my husband's gonna lead, and I believe in that, and just figuring out what that looks like. I don't know.
And then you gotta be, and honestly, men, like, we have to be somebody worth following. That wasn't talking. You have to be a man of value and be the person that needs to step into the role. If you're out here being a scrub, then you're just a scrub. Like nobody wants to follow a scrub. Like I wouldn't want to follow a scrub. Like if I had a before. So it's like you have to like at least put forth some effort in leading, in growing, in molding yourself and evolving, and being sensitive to the strengths, the independentness, the 20 some odd years of her being on her own. Like you have to be aware of that and not just try to change the entire culture in 5 years. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a constant process. So she was doing perfectly fine without me before marriage. So I have to understand that. You know what I mean? So yeah.
When I think of
Go ahead, Ashley.
When I think about just as far as like the independent aspect of the question, one of the first people, it's a simple, like Ricky Jimerson was like so like, I mean, he was just an integral part of my walk with Christ in the beginning and building a foundation on that. And so I just remember at camp we were we were in like the dining hall, and I think the dining hall, like people were leaving the dining hall or something like that. The kids were leaving. And I started putting bleachers on the table. And, you know, I'm like, oh, I got this. I could do it, whatever. I got it. Ricky like, God, what you doing? I was like, putting bleachers on the table. What you mean? He's like, what? All these men in here, you better let them do it. I'm like, I got it. I can do it too, you know? And it's just like that lesson. It was just like, dang, like, okay, we know you got it, but let him do it. And like, let him, you know, take that role and take the lead in that. Like, you know, you not doing it doesn't say anything, you know, it doesn't devalue you. It doesn't make you less independent. It doesn't make you weak or anything like that. But it just, if anything, it shows your strength and like, okay, I'm willing to step back and chill on that, right? And then as far as the submission aspect, I think of the Trinity, right? Like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and how they each submit unto one another, unto the Father, right? And I think back into I think it's Genesis when it talks about as the Ezer, the word for Holy Spirit, and like the same word is used for the wife, right? And it's just like the Holy Spirit was like the helpmate, and like that's like we're compared to that, the helpmate for our husband. And so it puts it, it makes it easier to submit to him when I think of the fact what my position is in this marriage, right? It's no less. It's, you know, it's not a guy don't see he's greater than, you know, it's differences of responsibilities as absolutely. But it's, you know, just as Christ is led by the Father, you know, so I should be led by my husband, right?
I think so. I would say to that though, like the heart, I'm gonna just be 100. Like there's things that like we have beliefs that we know, but we don't practice.
Right. Absolutely.
And so the reality is like we always say that we believe that, you know, the woman is supposed to kind of in some submit, right? But then what does that look like? How does that play out? Right. The culture teaches us that like women are like just as equal and strong as men, right? Like obviously I don't want to dominate my wife, right? So we agree with these terms, but how they play out, we don't know. So a lot of times, even though like my wife may agree with that, culturally, if I ask her to do something, that don't mean I'm always gonna get a submissive wife. I'm gonna get a why. What you mean? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not all the time, but I'm just saying like, but like and then that don't mean that I'm always like, yes. I mean, I'm just trying to be honest. Like I sometimes like if I'm not in the right mood, I can try to dominate her. You know what I'm saying? And and so like again, like it's important now while you're single to begin to realize these things about yourself and then bring them before the Lord and say, Lord, I know this to be true about myself. I was taught to be strong, independent, a Black woman, to care for myself, not need a man. And I don't think all of those things are wrong, right? But they're also a reflection of our culture. And how the man in Black culture has, he's been, I don't know if the right term is emasculated. I don't know if that's the like he's just like his masculinity has been taken away from him, right? And so where the position that he's supposed to have is not there, and we feed into that. And so it's like Ashley said, it's like, okay, how can I help him to be the man that he's supposed to be? How do I help teach him how to lead, right, in a loving way, because I am the helper. And then as the man, it's like, okay, how do I lead and love my wife well so that she feels cared about, you know, that she feels loved, that she feels that she's important. And like literally like you, and we have to bring these things all the time before the Lord. We have to have conversations about these things. And I think the more you can start dealing with those things, maybe having, you're not married right now, having friends that are married, or having, even as, you know, singles, y'all can have Bible study discussions about this stuff, you know, and start talking about it. But I think cultivating those things now is very helpful. So.
Solid. Yeah, it's the deeper question within that is a value question. How do I be a part and play my role well and still be valued, still be seen, and still be heard, still be understood? And so first thing is that if you are in some form of relationship with someone and that is the feeling that you receive from that individual on with submission, that's a problem. Well, if you're not married in the first place, you shouldn't be submitting to anyone but the Lord.
Come on.
That's bottom line within that. But even deeper than that, it has to become, as he's submitting to the Lord, you're submitting to him. As Jeff said, we're not submitting to no scrubs. For sure. I know John with his 3 daughters, he's not gonna allow her to submit to no scrub within that. So for sure. Man, we're gonna jump on this one, and it's probably maybe the last one. This from the big homie Jovan Johnson. Jojo says this. Jojo says, when there's a real disagreement, how do you all compromise or make a decision? And then in parentheses said, even if you didn't agree with each other. So when there's a serious disagreement, how do you guys come to some form of consensus to resolve that issue, compromise, even if you don't agree? What does that normally look like in conflict resolution within each other?
So y'all agree all the time. Y'all don't never.
Right. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I guess I'll go. Man, we created this little concept, kind of like, it's called the compromise. It's like, what do you want to do? What do you don't want to do? And then how can y'all meet in the middle? And for something like washing the dishes the night before we go to bed, like, if you don't want to wash the dishes, I don't want to wash them. What can we do to give both of us peace? And let's put that mud in the dishwasher and let the dishwasher do the work. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what are those things that you're willing to do, you're not willing to do? If you communicate properly, how can you move forward? And it's okay to disagree. Like that's a good thing sometimes, to have difference of opinions, but the challenge is actually landing on peace and understanding and love. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know, if I disagree, you know, we just keep hashing it out until we land on something. You know?
Yeah. Thinking, was it premarital counseling?
Yeah.
I think we learned the idea of, do you want to be right or do you want to have peace? And so a lot of the arguments or conversations we have where we disagree, it's just like, I really sit and think like, man, do I really want to have this fight or do I want to have peace with my husband? All right, I can let him have this one. Let him have it, for the lack of words right now. I knew you was going to do that because I tend to count my wins. But yeah, I want to have peace or do I want to be right? And a lot of times I want to be right, but I also have to think about really.
Did you get the fly, Jeff? Did you get it?
Did you feel
that boy out here getting them flies?
I think and a lot of times I'd rather have peace than either pick at words or even just think about the little situation of doing or not. Our thing is going out. Can y'all still see us? Okay.
Yeah, we got y'all.
Yeah, and so a lot of times I want to have peace, and then there was something else I had at the back of my mind that I want to say. It's gone. So yeah, I maybe
it's all good.
Come back and
It'll come back to you. It'll come back to you. Anyone else? Just that conflict resolution piece.
So
we'll take one more.
I think that one of the biggest things we've learned is to understand how each other, how we respond in confrontation, and to be able to understand that, because it's very different for both of us, and we've really had to come into an understanding of, okay, you need space. I want to talk. Like, I'm ready to talk. As soon as like 5 minutes later, I'm ready to talk. But we've had to compromise and meet in the middle too. And sometimes it's letting the other person just have completely what they need, and for him to die to himself and go, okay, she's ready to talk now. Okay, give me a second, let's talk now. So it's just a lot of dying to self and understanding what the other person needs in confrontation. You want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, to add to that, as she was saying, I'm the type where I'm like, I need space, man. I want to look and see like, man, where did I really go wrong in this and causing this huge conflict in our marriage? And Keandra's like, let's talk about it now. She'll go ahead and apologize. I'm like, you don't even know what you're apologizing for. Stop apologizing. I'm like, what you talking about? I'm still mad. But like, so that's pretty much like how it typically plays out in our marriage, and I'll be the first to say I'm trash at it still to this day. Like, and what I'm trash at is what I. That's real.
Let 'em know.
Thanks, man. What I'm in all honesty, what I'm trash at is like in those moments, my wife has repeatedly like told me when I feel like I need to retreat and have space, she, for whatever reason, it's like a trigger that goes off in her that's like, hey, I just feel like you're abandoning me, you're leaving me, and she automatically thinks the worst. And so what she's told me that would help her in those moments would be like, just if you could affirm me in like, hey, I'm just going to have just time alone, just to sit and think about where I went wrong. Like, my heart is to come and reconcile. Like, that's what she's has asked, but it's so hard to do that, right? When you're upset and mad. Like, I'm just like, no, you just need to know that, and I'll come back to you. But those two dynamics have constantly played itself out, and I just, man, I try to fight like heck within our marriage to tell my wife, like, yo, I know we're upset, but I know that I love you. I'll come back and reconcile, and not to stay away for so long.
Yeah, I was gonna say the biggest thing is to not have clearly you have a disagreement, you have a confrontation, to let it go over, and then it never gets talked about. That is the biggest no-no. Always revisit it, even if it's a day later or 2 days later. You always revisit it so that you don't continue to go to bed angry, or you try not to go to bed angry at all, and to not give the enemy a foothold to come in and tempt you. So.
Solid. Man, somebody else was out here something on that?
No,
one?
I'll say this is a good segue because our next 2 weeks are talking about overcoming trials in marriage and conflicts in marriage and finances and stuff like that. So JoJo just started off. Y'all tune in.
Sure.
Shout out to JoJo.
JoJo. Well, man, I greatly appreciate you guys for giving us some time and sharing some insight and wisdom. We didn't even get to the second piece, but I feel good about what we covered, man. We answered some solid questions, gave some good insight. We'll start with Aaron and Steph. Do you guys have any like final takeaways or anything that you just wanted to tell the people? Just any closing thoughts, and we'll just go around and knock out some closing thoughts, and we'll finish this up.
Marriage is a beautiful gift, and it's a beautiful gift, but it requires work, but it's not impossible. And I want people to know that it's very attainable to have a good marriage, but a good marriage takes work. And I don't want people to think that marriage is some fairy tale, that it's just everything makes sense when you have it. It requires work, and work isn't a bad thing. Doing the work isn't bad, but people shy away from the work because it's too hard. It feels too difficult. Don't shy away from the work, and you will reap the reward of that benefit if you just press it.
Solid.
What she said.
Aaron, man, y'all know Aaron is a published author. He has a book out. You want to tell people where they can get the book, or?
Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate it. Yeah, so my book is Finding Christ in College. You can find it on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and Author House Publishing. It really just covers my college journey of how I was able to really find faith in Christ through school and different challenges and trials that I had. And it really is a spin. It has a lot of comedy in it as well, but it's really a testament to show that as a college student, it's okay to walk with God, and you don't have to be ashamed of that, in your years through college. So check it out, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and hit me up as well too. I'm on Facebook and Instagram if you'd like to know a little bit more.
Finding Christ in College.
Let me do the shameless plug. Follow my wife. She is a natural hair.
Yes, she is. Killing it. Yes, ma'am.
So follow her at Step by Steph. She's on Instagram, YouTube. She does tutorials, phenomenal tutorials. Does all different hairstyles. All my naturalistas out there. I've learned the lingo. Hashtag get your hair did and get it real nice.
I'm with it. Aaron and Stephanie, if y'all could just type that in the comments so people can have that, the name of the book and your handles, that would be dope. Let's go to Corell and Ashley, you guys mind? Final thoughts? Anything that you want to take away from the people?
First, I would like to thank my mom for having me and my dad, you know.
You about to get taken off.
You kind of helped. My family, and I'm just playing, but so my thing is, one, I think that each person's marriage looks different, right? You know, I think, you know, we just have to understand that that's one thing key to understand, and two, that you know what maybe we've had some friends that have seemingly easy marriages, and we have some friends that have rough marriages. And so I think like each one looks different. Boundaries look different. Each one is different. No one, like we have 5 different perspectives. Like no one has the absolute perfect. I think the goal is always, our foundation is Jesus, right? Our foundation is the word of God. And we're, you know, the pursuit is holiness. And so I think us doing that together is what's, you know, for some people that journey may be, you know, easier than other people. And, you know, for us, our journey is a little bit difficult sometimes. So, but I think that's always the main goal. That's the prize, is to pursue holiness. Go ahead.
And I would say, so I thought I knew what love was before I got married, and then I got married. I'm serious. Like, and when you read 1 Corinthians 13, like the words in 1 Corinthians 13, I don't think I fully ever understood until I got married. Like I just listened to it says love is patient. When you married, they hit you in a whole different way. So it says it is not self-seeking, is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Like, and the reason I say that is because like we've had a marriage that we've been through like the ringer. And what keeps me is when my wife is upset with me, when she's angry, when she don't want to talk to me, and when I feel like I deserve better. Like what keeps me is this realization that, guess what? I do the same thing to Jesus. And Jesus says, guess what? Like commitment. I'm so committed to you that even when you didn't love me, even when you were still in your sin and you didn't care, you didn't give a thought about me, I still pursued you. I still loved you. That's unconditional love. Unconditional love is not that I'm going to get something out of this. See, that's a false thing to love. It's like, man, my life, she's supposed to love me. I'm entitled. She's supposed to care for me. She's supposed to treat me this way. It's like, nah, unconditional love is like, nah, when I'm not getting none of that, I'm still going to love and pursue her. I'm still going to honor her. I'm still not going to chase after nobody else. I'm still not going to, you know, go treat myself to some sexual thing. Like, no, I'm in this.
Yeah.
Regardless of anything else, I'm in this because I'm committed to Jesus. Like, that's unconditional love. And I think if I can leave you with anything, like that's what Christ called us to. It ain't an easy walk. It ain't because anybody can go do all that other stuff. Anybody can go cheat, go do this. I'm done with you. I'm upset. But like, man, when Christ called us to love, man, when I think about what he did in my life and when he changed me and I knew where I was at and he still pursued me, I can't do anything else but now pursue my wife in the same way. I can't do anything else but love. That don't mean I'm going to meet that expectation every time. I'm going to be perfect in that every time, but that's what I'm striving to. And anybody I want in my life, I want them to push me to that excellence. That's it.
Man.
Ashley, you better wipe the sweat off that man.
Baby Betty.
I can't stand them.
Johnson family, talk to us. Johnson family. I ain't mean to make y'all follow Pastor Corell Williams. Reverend Doctor. He's so godly.
He's right.
Married.
My bad, Jeff. Go ahead. My bad.
Man, for real, marriage is an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? It's beautiful. It's an opportunity to. That's it. Y'all got me.
Camera.
Yeah. opportunity is to share God, man, with people like through our lives. I can't tell you how many people have, non-believers intrigued about the God I serve simply because how I interact with my wife. You know what I'm saying?
Good.
I've had people like, yo, you treat her like that, you're a black man, like in this culture, like what's up? It's like I submit to something. Like I follow the example of him. And it's a segue to share your faith, way to learn more about them, to invite them into the big story, man. And it's like people disregard the sacredness of marriage and not realizing how precious it can be for not just the believer, but for the unbeliever as well.
Yeah.
So man, we just take it serious, you know what I'm saying, and use it as a tool to just share God's love, man. And I think single people need to understand it's not the only way to share God, but it is a way. And if you want to do it, like just be prepared to take on that, because somebody needs to see a healthy relationship. Somebody needs to see a faithful man, what it looks like, a faithful woman, what it looks like. And you can be that example. You can be that lifeline to break a stronghold in somebody's life through your example, loving your spouse. And that's why it's just serious for me.
I'm with it.
Yeah, I don't have anything. God bless. All right.
John and Key, talk to us real quick. Bring it on home for us.
Yeah, so I think in all of this, I wanted to just touch on to anyone who's listening who are in the stage of singleness, to enjoy it, like really honestly enjoy that time and to take it as something that, that I don't know whether God has called you to singleness for the rest of your life, or that there is a point where he will lead you into a marriage. Like, understand that is a precious time that is not meant to be just brushed over, or that your eyes are so fixed down the road towards marriage that you miss out on the things that God is wanting to groom and mold and shape you into. I'm not saying that, I know I can speak for all of us on here. None of us came into marriage with all the answers or with everything like completely figured out in our lives. But I would say for sure, as much as you could work through and navigate through when it's just you and the Lord and not like you having to be held accountable like with a spouse, as much as you could figure out and navigate through without bringing that into the marriage, man, do that and enjoy the freedom and the gift and blessing that it is of seeing. I know, like, hearing that from a married person, you just like, man, do you really feel that way? I wouldn't trade it. I love being married. I don't want to go back to being single. That's not what, don't hear me say that. But I am saying, like, it was a point when I did get married that I go, well, shoot, like, I think I missed out on, my mindset was so fixed on trying to get here that there was aspects of my singleness that I sort of missed out on. But so really, really focusing, honing on that. God is really in every stage of where he has us at. There is something that he's wanting to teach us. And I just hope that we wouldn't be so caught and focused and fixed down the road that we miss what he's trying to teach us in that moment.
So dope. So dope.
That's good.
All I got to say is don't do it without Jesus.
Amen.
I don't see how.
That's what it is.
That's it.
All right. Nelly, anything you have?
Great. I hope that everyone listening has actually taken heed to the words of wisdom that are being shared. And kind of like what Keith said, like it's a journey, but you can't do it without Christ. So ultimately, all of this is if you're just trying to do it on your own and for your own selfish gain. But at the end of the day, it's all supposed to be with the purpose of trying to glorify God. So no matter what season of life you're in, whether it's single, engaged, Christ in all that you are, all that you say, all that you do. So if you ain't doing that, you need to reevaluate some stuff before you go trying to jump into the next thing.
Gotcha. Solid. Anything? Well, we thank you guys. Thank you guys for your time. Y'all dropped it all. I didn't have anything else to add to it at all. We again thank you guys for your time. Thank you all for who all shared questions, thoughts, comments in the comment section. Greatly appreciate you guys. I know we went over an hour. We're supposed to only been like 30-40 minutes, but it was some dope content. I think people really enjoyed it, and we were able to give some good godly sound advice and insight to everyone. So thank you guys again. We appreciate you all. And yeah, we'll check out with y'all later. Y'all have a good one.
Appreciate y'all.
Good night, everybody.
Y'all take
Good
it
night,
easy,
good night, good
man.
night.
Good night, y'all.
John, what time your bro day?
Okay. All right.